let's go to edge. And man, I feel like that's a loaded question right now. So yeah, go ahead. Give me edge.
Yeah, to me, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to go with Joseph Osai. I think that he showed in that bowl game when he was playing more of an edge role instead of a linebacker role. I mean, that dude is relentless. That dude can get past the line of scrimmage. That dude can get to the quarterback. I think he had 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks in that game, I think, in his one true game as an edge player. And look, Texas's pass rush last year was very average, very, very average. And I think that adding a burst of athleticism to some of the big bodies that are there, moving also to a 4-man front, I think that that's going to be a fantastic fit for him.
So something I was trying to get some clarification on that I was going to get in spring football, but we don't have spring football, is Malcolm Epps. Is he flipping to the other side of the ball?
I haven't heard that. I've heard that he's sticking at sort of tight end, but but look, obviously, if they had practice, they would have tried him out a little bit more there. But at least at this point, I haven't seen that.
No, because that was, you mentioned how bad the pass rush is. I mean, you're giving up 451 yards a game. You probably got a pretty bad pass rush. But also that 4-man front for Joseph Osai, I mean, now he gets to, dare I say it, he might end up with double-digit sacks, which is one of the reasons I'm saying it's a loaded question. But I also I want to see this match quarters defense. All of a sudden, everybody wants to play 4-2-5.
Look, I think that we're starting to reach a point where unless you've got 3 truly dominant guys like Baylor had last year, I think you kind of have to in a lot of ways because, that's just the way that the Big 12 goes, and you have to get to the quarterback. And the funny thing with Texas playing a 3-man front is you got big bodies and same with Oklahoma, it's you got big bodies that nobody else can really match, in this conference. I don't know why you would limit yourself to 3 of them, So for me, I think that the 4-man front is going to be a real good fit for them. And look, they have to get more of a pass rush than they did last year. Obviously, the defensive backs got a lot of blame, but if you can't get to the quarterback, I don't know what you want them to do.
Yeah, man, I can't cover somebody for 7 seconds. I'm sorry. It's just we were talking about this at the Thorpe Award selection committee, and it's are we dinging some of these guys because they play with crappy pass rush? And I would say, well, they work together. I mean, that's the obvious answer. And Douglas Coleman was just so good last year that he ended up being talked about more than anything else. And I was just going, man, if they didn't run the defense that they ran, maybe he gets to show a little bit more. So going from there to the best linebacker, which I think, this is interesting for me because Jordan Brooks gets drafted in the first round. Kenneth Murray Jr. gets drafted in the first round. And all of a sudden the narrative with the Big 12 last year was that, nobody in this conference gets drafted. And then you see Jeff Gladney join them and going, oh, okay, cool. So are we on this now? Are we saying that, 1, who's the best linebacker in Texas? And 2, could we see another first-round draft pick?
First round might be tough, but I think that there's some guys definitely in the States who could get drafted pretty early next year. And so to me, this comes down to 2 players for linebacker. I mean, there's some really good linebackers at A&M, some good ones at Texas, all that. But to me, this is very much between Garrett Wallow at TCU and Terrell Bernard at Baylor. And I think I'd lean towards Bernard, but if you told me Wallow, I don't think that that's a wrong answer at all. I mean, these are 2 guys who just stick in the middle of the defense again, like you mentioned, with Wallow being one of 2 linebackers at TCU and Bernard being one of 2 maybe true linebackers at Baylor. They just ate up tackles. And when Clay Johnston went down last year, I mean, Bernard was one of the best defensive players in the whole conference for the rest of the season after that. So to me, it's those guys. The other guy that I'll mention is Blaze Ulrich at Rice. He's not a guy that maybe you've seen before, but he is one of those guys who just causes havoc. I mean, he had 15 tackles for loss, I think, last year. And again, I mean, he was the real consistent guy. The funny thing about Ulrich, too, is that, obviously a school like Rice does not take many junior college guys, but he actually started out as a junior college guy and has grown into a huge role for them.
All right. Also, with a name like that, I mean, I got to root for you at linebacker.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, come on, Blaze Aldridge.
Yeah, no, that man is. We're blitzing every single snap. That's just what you do because I need to get to see you get these sacks.
Well, and the one other thing, because I assume that we're probably not going to talk about Rice anytime after this. Is that Rice.
You assume correct, sir.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand what we're doing here, but Rice actually has the longest winning streak in the state of Texas right now at 3 games.
That's a wild statistic.
I know.
Okay, now you've given everyone an opportunity to continue to beat the hell out of Texas. Although I'm still gonna mess with Texas, as they say. But I mean, Tom Herman's made that real difficult the last couple of days. I'll keep my mouth shut. The best defensive back in the state of Texas. Who you got?
Yeah, this is a really tough one too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it comes down to two guys especially. I think it comes down to Caden Stearns at Texas, and it comes down to Trayvon Moehrig at TCU. And I'll give Moehrig the nod mostly because he's been on the field. I mean, that's a big part. Participation is the biggest part of production, and so Moehrig, this was his first full season as a starter, obviously. And, I know that if you talk to anybody at TCU, they will constantly tell you that they have the top two safeties by Pro Football Focus coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But Moehrig was a really good player. He stepped into that role. He's able to cover. He's able to make plays at the line. And look, I think that if TCU can take that last step towards, because last year was a good defense, so it wasn't an elite defense. I think that if they become an elite defense this year, that their safety rotation will be a huge part of that.
Okay, I'm gonna circle that. I'm waiting on Caden Stearns to have a comeback year, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the kid. And I think that when he's healthy, he's the best. But it's just been a struggle, man. It's been a struggle to stay healthy. It's been a struggle to stay on the field, and that hurts. And the other guy, because I can't stop mentioning guys, is Damani Richardson at Texas A&M is going to be an All-American. He was phenomenal as a true freshman, and he's, 2 years down the road is going to be an All-American.
Never apologize for bringing up a potential All-American, man. We all want to buy stock in that. Because I pay attention to defensive backs more than I pay attention to any other position for obvious reasons. But in the state of Texas, I don't mind telling people Jeff Okudah's from Grand Prairie and he left the state, and even here locally in my backyard, Josh Proctor went to Ohio State. Dax Hill goes to Michigan. Miles Slusher goes to Arkansas. So I'm really waiting on Texas, or the state of Texas, I should say, to raise another Thorpe Award finalist quality defensive back, because even Gary Patterson probably yell at me, be like, "Have you guys been paying attention in the last 5 years?"
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Well, and the thing that I'll say, it is interesting to see sort of the shift with the teams in state. I mean, I think that you look at Baylor, you look at TCU, and you look at Texas A&M. Those are three programs that really want to be defensive first, and I'm curious how that does change now that, especially Baylor and A&M changing. How that has an impact on the guys maybe wanting to stay in state. But it's going to be a process, obviously.
Yeah, man. Ampersand U is losing battles it should win, but that's me talking, not you. All right. Best quarterback in the state of Texas. Who you got?
Yeah, this is obviously a very tough one. Shane Buechele is on our cover, but I'm not going to pick him. Charlie Brewer obviously led Baylor to the Big 12 title game last year. Not going to pick him. Look, again, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to go with Sam Ehlinger. I think that over the last 3 years, he has proven that he's the type of player who can put a team on his back. In fact, I'd argue that at times, some of Texas' issues is that they have not trusted him throwing the ball enough. And I think that, he's just one of those players who can fill any role that you need from him. He's able to run in those short yardage situations. He's able to make reads. He's able to, throw the ball at all levels of the field. And I think that, look, the last 2 years ago, obviously they win 10 games. I don't think that they win 10 games without Sam Ehlinger there. So it's not like a huge gap. Like I don't think that he's phenomenally on another planet than anybody else in the state of Texas. But I think that, heading into 2020, heading into his senior year, I think he's by far the most proven quarterback in the state of Texas. Yeah,
man, I'm with you on that. If for no other reason than, I like Max Duggan. Or Duggan, excuse me. I like Alan Bowman. I even like Charlie Brewer when he's healthy, and Clayton Tune's allowed to throw the ball all over the yard. But I mean, there's a reason why people keep bringing up Ehlinger's name, and it has less to do with him being the quarterback at Texas and more to do with him actually being good. It's just his style of football so far has not shown that it can be anything other than what it is. And you might be right. Maybe this is the year, because Mike Yurcich wants to push the ball down the field vertically, and I thought he took a step forward last year as a passer, and he just needs to take a larger step this year.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair. I am curious again, this is potentially the first year where you feel like maybe they have a really good offensive line again. I mean, look, I think that there's a lot of factors that will maybe get worked out this year, but I do think that Ehlinger is the real deal. Like, I don't think that he's sort of, the hype or whatever. That he's just the quarterback at Texas. I think he's a really good football player. And look, I mean, I think that this is his last chance to go out and try to win a Big 12 championship, obviously. So we'll see what he can do.
5 straight, dog. Five straight.
Trust me, I'm aware.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to force you to make some enemies. Best coaching staff in the state of Texas.
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I think that, to me, and they do have to replace a coordinator, so we'll see how that goes. But I think that SMU staff deserves a lot of credit. I think that, Sonny Dykes manages his staff really well. The most interesting thing about that staff, too, is that, I think 7 or 8 of the 10 assistant coaches are under the age of 40. Like, they're a bunch of young guys who are allowed to go out there and try to do some crap, and I think that's great. Just the way that they run their staff, I think that they've done a good job of coaching people up all over the field. And look, I mean, we can talk about them obviously in terms of total defense or whatever, not being necessarily as high as everybody else, but they led the nation in sacks. They were top 5 in tackles for loss. Like, they do what they do very well, and they're coached up very, very well. So I think that staff deserves a lot of credit. The other staff that I'll mention, and we haven't seen them coach a game yet, is obviously a big part of it, but I really love the staff that Baylor put together. I think that they have a chance to be a very special staff if they can figure things out. Because, I mean, Larry Fedora is a guy on offense who Baylor talked about as a head coach more than once before. And, on defense, obviously, having Dave Aranda being a guy around that defense and having Ron Roberts, who's been, a major defensive coordinator and a head coach before. I mean, and then you talk about a guy like George Munoz, who was a guy who was an analyst last year at LSU, but was considered in a lot of ways to be Joe Grady's right-hand man. I mean, I'm very excited to see what they can do with this team, but obviously you can't pick them if they haven't coached a game as yet, but I think that they have a lot of upside.
I'm with you on that, because that's where my mind went as well. The coordinators, I'm calling Aranda a coordinator, but also keeping McGuire is what sealed it for me. Like, I thought for sure he would take another job because he just can. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's in the Hall of Fame now, right?
He's getting inducted to the Hall of Honor this year as a Texas high school coach, for those who don't know. Right.
And that's not a small thing. All right, so I'm going to call an audible because I looked at this question of who the best player is, and it's not fun. Neither is who the best team. So, because this is preseason, I'm going to ask, who is your newcomer of the year in the state of Texas?
Ooh, newcomer of the year in the state of Texas. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm, again, not going to overthink it, and I think I'm going to go with Zach Evans at TCU.
Yes! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's like I've been on this other end of this for so long. And of course, I'm mostly talking to myself, and I read comments and I hear people on the radio, whatnot. But like, RJ, the dude's a problem. He's a problem child. I'm like, 15 yards per carry. You take on the problems and you try to make it work. What are you doing? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so I was kind of thinking between obviously Zach Evans and also Bijan Robinson at Texas.
Right.
But I think that Zach Evans is going to have a chance. They lost both of their starting running backs from last year, and so they're really looking for answers in that backfield. And look, I think that you pair a Zach Evans with some of the guys they have in that backfield, and you pair him with Max Duggan, and you pair him with some of the receivers they have. I think that they could ask him to play a big role. I mean, there's a reason that TCU decided to take this chance on him, because look, there are obviously some questions about, how are you going to be able to handle him? How are you going to use him? How are you going to keep him in line? That sort of stuff. But like, Gary Patterson clearly thought he was worth that risk. And I think that that's a great gamble for a program like TCU that has a strong foundation. And I think that there's the potential that he could be relied on right away to play a big role in that offense.
Yeah, man. If no other reason than Dominique Richardson's out the door like 2 days later, which, first question I get from a lot of people is, yo, RJ, can he play? Yeah, he can play. He just ain't Zach Evans, and that matters, right? And this is why I've always said talent wins out. You'll put up with anything short of, really just a felony charge. But even after that, you'd probably try to talk your way out of it depending on how good that dude is, because that's just the way that this game goes. As much as I don't like it, I do acknowledge that the worst thing that Zach Evans has done is be fickle and not give up his phone when his coach asked him to. And I wanted that to be made clear. You know, like, that dude has not been in trouble. He just has a problem with authority, to which I can sympathize.
Yes, and that's definitely the thing, right? Like, if he's getting arrested all the time, that's
Right.
definitely, one thing. I think it just seems like he's a little bit of a prick. That's
Right.
not illegal,
Right.
that's not against the rules. And, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's got to figure that out before he goes and steps into Gary Patterson's program.
100%.
But I do think that, there's a chance that this could really work out well for both him and them, because I do think, they do have that structure. And I do think that, if he buys in, if he realizes, look, I maybe lost out on some big opportunities because people didn't like how I did things, like, that's what you hope that he's learned from this situation. And if he does, obviously his talent is not in question.
Yeah, man. The state of Texas gets the top 2 running backs in the 2020 class, and Jace McClellan goes to Alabama. So explain that to me. I don't get it. I mean, I'm not asking you to explain that to me, but it's just one of those things. It's like Bijan Robinson's from Arizona, Zach Evans is from the state, and I thought he was gone. And then Jace McClellan not only doesn't come to Oklahoma, but goes to Alabama. Okay, whatever. Shehan, for those of us that don't live near a Tom Thumb or an HEB, where can we get the magazine?
Yeah, the best way to get it is to become a subscriber, texasfootball.com/subscribe. You get it mailed directly to your house, and actually, so it hits bookstands like early July, hopefully first week of July. You get it mailed at least 2 weeks earlier straight to your house. You get early access to it as well. And plus, you don't have to fight these crowds during coronavirus.
Hey, man, and that's a plus for me because I bought a Kindle, Shehan. That's where I'm at. Like, I read 2-3 books a week. And I've been basically told, yo, RJ, either get a Kindle or just stop ordering books from Amazon because you're actually evil doing that. I'm like, I guess I'm getting a Kindle now. Shehan, is there anything that you are working on between now and the magazine coming out?
To be honest, I am going to try to get some rest.
Hey,
my
attaboy.
God, having to put together a 400-page magazine and having to write like 30,000 words of content for a magazine while doing all my interviews at home was terrible. So I'm just looking forward to some time off.
Hey, man, as a sports writer, like, one of the only perks is getting to travel, and none of us have done any of that.
Nope.
Dude, I so appreciate this. You are 100% awesome at your job, and you are an awesome human being, and I am very, very happy to know you.
Hey, well, thanks so much for having me on. I'm always down.
Right on, man.